Last year, we created our first Manufacturing Innovation Institute in Youngstown, Ohio. A once shuttered warehouse is now a state-of-the-art lab where new workers are mastering the 3D printing that has the potential to revolutionize the way we make almost everything.
If you're that type of person that just will not give up, you can start a company. You can do anything you want to do. You just can't give up.
I think 3D printing has already begun to change the world. I think through the world of 3D printing, people are now able to look at problems differently and then actually be able to engineer and design solutions themselves.
My standing on 3D printing is that it's amazing. It is an experience for students. They get to explore and they really get an authentic learning experience.
"3D printing is where you take, in my case, plastic and you heat it up, kind of like a fancy hot glue gun where you've got the plastic that melts and you can lay that down in little lines. If those lines are close together, then you actually form a layer, and then as you lift the printer, the print head, this fancy hot glue gun on a robot arm, then it makes multiple layers and you can build things in three-dimensional shapes. So the cool thing about it is that you can make any shape that you want. And so that's what's kind of blowing the minds of people that are introduced to 3D printing is technically any shape is possible, so almost anything is possible, but it really opens up the possibilities for manufacturing and making things in a new way.
To print something from start to finish, it has to start with a problem or a need, so something that you want to try and solve. From there, you have to design possible solutions, and so there's some investigating, there's some hand drawing, there's some planning that goes into that. Once you have your solution plan, then you do have to create a digital file, so whether it's a CAD file, computer drafted, or whether it's hand drawn and then scanned. Once you have the computer file, you can export it into, which typically is done, most 3D printers use STL files. Once you have the file, then you can actually send it to the printer, and the printer will process it. It'll layer it and slice it down into all the different layers, and then it can print your product.
PrinterBot is a 3D printing manufacturer, so we don't print things for other people. We make machines for people to use themselves. So in my the whole mantra of why we started was we want to be your first 3D printer. Since this is a new technology for consumers and it is only recently reached the price point that is more palatable for just regular folks to own a printer, we're in the $400 to $1,200 price range on our products. So we're a manufacturer that makes inexpensive printers but at a very high quality, and we make them in the US.
Currently at our school, we are using 3D printing in an MYP Exploratory, which is a middle school kind of elective, where students get about 10 to 12 weeks to kind of get engaged with a new learning technology. And so for us in 3D printing, they're learning to find problems, design solutions. We teach CAD and computer drawing within that class, and then we actually get to print their drawings on the 3D printer. I've also expanded now that 3D printing into our 8th grade design class, where students are learning to be designers and learning to figure out what does it mean to design a product for a customer base that is desirable.
I have noticed a change in student learning, and I would say particular to skills in students. I feel like by students having to go through a process and using a 3D printer, they're really developing that skill of perseverance by continually having to redesign, evaluate, and go through all of those things. So I would say perseverance is one of the things that I've noticed the most.
I've seen students use 3D printers in the classroom, and I tell you what's different. There's a lot of new ways to teach that are kind of coming up these days, and the thing that really that I see get teachers and students excited is when they get to put their hands on the thing that is helping them learn.
Getting a 3D printer was a phenomenal idea. I think so much so that I believe it would be beneficial for us to get more 3D printers so we can continue to do even more projects on the 3D printer.
So the level of interaction that happens when you actually get to see the product of your learning in your hand and it's doing useful work to make other products is just kind of mind-blowing. So I think it belongs in the classroom because of how it engages students.
Voor het eerst is er een complete schedel bij een patiënt vervangen. Onder leiding van hersenchirurg Dr. Bonverwij is er in het UMC Utrecht met behulp van 3D-printing een op maat gemaakte schedel van kunststof geïmplanteerd.
3D-gemaakte schedel. Hier zitten ogen voor, hier is het achterhoofd, hier het oor, hier een oor. Dus het is een totale schedel van plastic.
Project Enable the Future is a corporation that set out about 7 or 8 years ago to connect people who have disabilities, hand disabilities, with people who have 3D printers. And Project Enable the Future started creating prosthetics. And for people around the world who are missing part of their fingers or part of their hand. And Project Enable the Future then realized that for the cost of manufacturing a prosthetic, which usually costs about $30,000, could be 3D printed for about 1,000th of that cost. So about $30 you can print one. And they realized with more and more people having personal desktop printers, there's a lot of people in need and there's a lot of people with printers nowadays, and so they decided they were going to put themselves in the middle of the market and connect people who have the need and people who have printers.
The 3D printing community, I have to tell you, is a wild place. Now it's, it happens online. We get to meet in person, like at maker fairs or local hacker spaces. And I got to tell you, it's a trip because they have varying degrees of interest, varying degrees of expertise. It's all over the map. I mean, think about just people in general. We all have different interests. But in the area of 3D printing, there's a lot of choices, and so you get a lot of people with a lot of opinions, and you have to be ready for like drinking from the fire hose. You know what I mean? But I'll tell you that there are fantastic people using their superpowers, their software skills, their hardware skills, to make new things and solve new problems. And because those people are out there and using their energies to do something exciting, there's going to be a growing following of open source communities that just sprout up all over the place.
Our ultimate dream goal would be to have kind of like a hacker lab on our campus where students can be just experimenting and exploring all different versions of technology. And, one of those being the 3D printing, but, whether it be computers and laser printers, all of those types of things, that would be a dream of ours for future plans, is to have something like a hacker lab on our campus.
And continue to explore what can be created from a computer design. And so kids will always be creative and always come up with designs, and so I want to continue to push the envelope with what we can do with their ideas in terms of printing final solutions and final products.
So our big thing right now is improve the user experience overall. That means the user experience in the software. The printer has to operate more reliably. Fixing that printer needs to be easier. Easier to manufacture is better because we can keep our prices low. So we want to just improve every part of 3D printing so that anyone can 3D print something.